Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. I am Leslie, and if you are looking for tips to cut your monthly expenses and put more of your hard-earned money back in your pocket, you are in the right place. I have so many tips to share with you, and I'm so excited to let you know some of the things that have really helped me out. So if you are looking for videos on budgeting, decluttering, and just managing a busy life, definitely subscribe for more videos. So I have different categories that I've come up with in order to kind of organize this list. So the very first category is going to be groceries. This is a big spending category for a lot of people. In addition to groceries, this is really just food in general, but my focus is on groceries because if you want to cut your expenses, going to the grocery store is such a better option than ordering food out. Whether it's fast food, going to a restaurant, a food truck, literally any of those things, it's going to be so much cheaper to just get your food at the grocery store. So what do you do once you get your food from the grocery store? The number one tip I have is to meal prep. This is something I do every week, and it might seem a bit daunting, but I promise you, once you get started, you will really get the hang of it. You really just need to figure out what fits into your schedule. So I know for me, I work just a standard 9 to 6 job. So I have my weekends off all the time. So I choose Sunday as my big meal prep day. I actually take breakfast and lunch to dinner, and sometimes I'll even make snacks to take. So I have quite a full lunch bag when I get to work. So the first thing I do is I will meal prep my lunches on Sunday. And the main way I do this is going to be the slow cooker. I absolutely love my slow cooker. It is so easy and you can do so much with it. And it's really nice because usually you can just throw a lot of stuff in there, let it sit for like 4 to 8 hours, and you have a meal at the end of it. It is so simple. A lot of my recipes I actually just get on Pinterest. I will search whatever happened to be on sale. So I might look up pork shoulder recipes, chicken breast recipes, soup recipes when it's cold, just whatever I'm looking for. And there will be so many options for things you can make. Another thing is the fix it and forget it cookbooks. Those are so great. They have really simple recipes. A lot of them have really minimal ingredients, and I just love them. Actually, I'm going to show you how much I love them. I will show you my secret stash of cookbooks. So I talk a lot about decluttering on this channel, but these are one thing I will not declutter. These are my fix it and forget it cookbooks. I actually have 5 of them, and as you can see, all the little tabs, I really do use them all the time. I think my favorite ones, if you're looking into something like this, slow cooker freezer meals. This is a great one. This one, you can make meals to stick in the freezer and prepare later, or you can just go ahead and make them at the current time you're making it. The other one is dump dinners. This one has desserts also, which I don't really do desserts in the slow cooker, but the dump dinners, they're so great because they are so simple. Like the split pea soup, I mean, look at how few ingredients that is, and the directions, it's just, I'm telling you, it's so easy. The slow cooker has changed my life when it comes to meal prep. So the other meal that I will prep is breakfast. So you can make breakfast in the slow cooker. You can do breakfast casseroles, which are great, but usually I just do something simple like an egg and cheese sandwich or a breakfast burrito, sometimes protein oatmeal. Protein oatmeal is super easy. It's literally protein powder and oats. I mean, you can't get much easier than that. So whatever it happens to be, whatever you want to do, there are just so many options for really easy meals out there. So you can utilize YouTube, Pinterest, like I said, the cookbooks. I mean, there are so many resources to find simple meal prep recipes. And don't worry if it seems a little overwhelming in the beginning, you will absolutely get the hang of it. I know when I first started, I never really knew what to buy or how much of anything I needed. I would have leftover ingredients. It was definitely a little bit of trial and error, but now it's like clockwork. It's so easy. So when you make your list for your slow cooker meals, if you happen to do that like I do, whatever your meal prep, whenever you make your grocery list, make sure you Have your list with you and stick to your list. No impulse purchases at the grocery. That is one way that you will end up spending a lot more money. I can't believe how expensive some of this stuff is, like a bag of chips or just a pack, like some packaged snack. All that stuff is so pricey. So if you really want something like that, it's totally fine to work it into your budget. Just make sure you account for that before you go shopping, and don't be grabbing a ton of things at the store. One tip for this is to make sure you never go grocery shopping when you're hungry. That is such a big one. You've probably seen the difference yourself if you've gone when you're hungry versus when you're not. It is so much easier to avoid those impulse purchases if you're not hungry while you're shopping. One thing that's great now is that you can do grocery pickup or delivery, and the fees, depending on what store you use, the fees aren't too bad. I know there's one place nearby where pickup is like $4. If you do Amazon Fresh, if you spend over $100, there's actually no delivery fee. You only have your tip, which the tip, I mean, it's not too much on top of your grocery bill. So there are a lot of options. Just figure out what would be the most beneficial to you. And I find that paying that extra little fee actually saves me money because I'm not tempted to impulse buy while I'm at the store. So as long as you're careful about making your list for the groceries you're getting delivered or picked up, then you'll be fine. And you don't have all of those surprise purchases adding up when you're at the checkout. Then you end up way over budget and you're like, what did I do? So just take advantage of some of those resources. Additionally, shopping sales is such a good idea because sometimes you can find some really good sales. And this is one place where freezing food comes in handy. So I do this all the time for meat. If ground beef or chicken, or I mean, literally any kind of meat, they pretty much all freeze well. So if one of them goes on sale, go ahead and stock up. I mean, I bought probably 10 pounds of ground beef at one time just because the packages were marked down a lot and I knew I was going to go through it, so might as well. But just keep an eye out for sales. I know they're not quite as common as they used to be, but sometimes coupons, you can find some discounts, but I can't even remember the last time I used a coupon. That show Extreme Couponing kind of ruined it for everybody, but at least now you tend to find really good sales, so you almost don't need them anyway. But if you happen to stumble on some good ones, that might be something to keep in mind. And I already mentioned the packaged products being more. It's a really good idea to limit your ultra processed foods just for your health anyway, but also for your budget. So any of those prepackaged meals, snacks, ice cream, just whatever it is, those tend to really add up. So be careful about those kinds of products. If you find that your grocery bill is way higher than you expect it to be, it's probably something like that, where it's packaged foods that are adding to your cost. And then the last one that has to do with food and groceries is going to be buy in bulk and buy the store brand. So store brand is almost always cheaper. The one exception would be if there's a sale going on for a name brand. So it's a good idea to just kind of glance at some of the different brands, because it might be possible that a name brand is on sale and actually cheaper than the store brand. But in general, don't be afraid to try the store brand. They're usually totally fine. I know I can rarely taste a difference, especially if you're buying stuff like canned tomatoes or canned beans or just stuff like that. It really doesn't matter. Buying in bulk is a really good idea too if you're able to. I know for me this is really good for paper goods, so paper towels, toilet paper. I tend to buy in bulk on Amazon, and that will definitely save some money too. So the next category is going to be transportation. This one is a little bit tricky because especially in the US, it can be really hard to find alternatives to your transportation method. For me, I'm from the Midwest. I've lived in very small towns that didn't have any public transit at all. So public transit wasn't an option. And usually something like carpooling, we couldn't do that either because everyone was going in a different direction and, you know, like 10 miles apart from each other. So it just didn't work out. But those are some good ideas if they're in your area. Look into public transit, look into carpooling. My husband and I actually carpooled to work together until recently when he ended up just buying an old car to have for the commute. But that's definitely a great way to save some money. If those aren't an option for you, there are definitely other ways that you can save some money. For example, when you're out running errands, if say you live in like a rural area and you have to drive into town, make sure you do several errands at once instead of having to drive back and forth all the time. So maybe you go into town to go to the grocery, to the post office, whatever it is, you have an appointment. Try to combine different stops into one trip. And then on top of that would be car insurance. I have a lot to say about car insurance, but it drives me crazy. It is just so expensive, and it's hard because a lot of car insurance companies tend to have pretty similar rates, but you can usually find maybe a couple $100 per 6 months difference, if that makes sense. I always pay 6 months at a time. So whenever I shop for car insurance, I'm always looking at the 6-month rate. And I know my current one, it is a few $100s cheaper than another one I was looking at. So just look in your area and compare prices. The one caveat to this is that not all car insurance companies are equal. Some of them just really suck. And this kind of varies depending on your location. So I found out the hard way, one that sucks where I currently live was actually really good where I used to live. So just keep that in mind when you're looking around. You may not want to go for the absolute cheapest. Just ask people you know what they have, and you can kind of get a good idea of what might be a good company versus one you might want to stay away from. If you happen to know a mechanic or someone who works in like a body shop or anything like that, they usually have some feedback for you on car insurance because they're used to working with car insurance companies for people who were in accidents. So that's a really good resource if you're able to ask someone like that. The next category is child and family related costs. I know this one doesn't apply to everyone, but if you have kids, you know what a huge expense your kids are. So it's always good to save some extra money in that category. Some of these actually may apply to people without kids. For example, the first one is going to be buying secondhand. This is a great tip for anyone, regardless of if you have kids, but especially for children. They tend to outgrow their clothes so fast that you don't want to be investing a lot of money in clothes because it might be just a couple months before they're out of it into a new size. So that can be true for things like toys, I'm trying to think, maybe things like crib sheets or like toddler bed sheets. You might be able to buy that secondhand. There are definitely some, especially baby and toddler type things, you can get secondhand pretty cheap. Old kids toys, especially toys that they play with outside. For some reason, I always see those like in perfectly good shape next to someone's trash can or otherwise being given away. So that's one that you can usually find secondhand, either yard sales. If you're part of a no-buy group on Facebook, I'm not a huge Facebook person, but the no-buy groups and Facebook Marketplace, any of that, even I guess Craigslist, I don't know if people still use Craigslist, but any of those secondhand type places, you can find some really good deals on kids stuff. The next one is going to be to limit extracurriculars. It is important to get your kids involved in things, but you don't want to have so many that it's actually breaking your budget and affecting how much extra money your household has. So maybe reevaluate what they're actually interested in, because if you have too many activities, I'm sure there's some where your kid is more excited about one thing than another. So you might be able to drop 1 or 2 extracurriculars depending on what they're doing. It's totally fine if this is where you want to spend some extra money. It's your budget. Do what fits your family best. Because having activities and the socialization, it is really important, but just don't go overboard if you can't afford it. One that we were really surprised about is how much people spend on their toddlers and even their babies for birthdays. It just blew our mind when we would see people spending all this money on birthday parties for their very small children who were not going to remember it, didn't even really seem to care what was going on. This is another personal preference. It's just something that I find a bit much, especially when they're that young. I know for mine, we had very small parties for my little one until, I guess we always have. She's 5 now. We have just parties at the park, at the grandparents' house, smaller get-togethers like that. We did look into parties at places like the trampoline park or just venues like that, but they were so pricey that it just didn't really seem worth it. Maybe as she gets older and has, you know, a bigger group of friends that she might want to invite, we'll definitely look into it later. But when they are that young, it just seems unnecessary to spend a lot of money on that. The last tip as far as your children go, and this is one that actually can apply to everyone as well, is look for free or very low cost activities in your area. So the big one that we use is the library. It is such a great resource for both my daughter and myself and my husband. We all utilize the library. That's a good one. Going to local parks. We all love going on walks. Just look for free things that you can do in your area. It's also common around where I live for them to have events connected to holidays. So they do like a Halloween parade, or they do a lot of parades in general. But any events like that, keep an eye out. Just try to find like a community board or website, whatever it is, wherever it is that they post these things. I know for us, they have a website where they update this stuff. Also Facebook, again, as much as I hate endorsing Facebook, that can be a good resource. So just find out about some of these free events. It's nice too because sometimes you start seeing the same people over and over, and it really helps your kids to develop some friendships. All right, the next category has to do with essentials. So things like bills, which we love to talk about bills. There are some ways that you could potentially bring your bills down. Things like negotiating prices. I've actually seen this work with my husband as far as internet and phone. For example, if a competitor has a cheaper price or is running some kind of promotion, sometimes you can actually call and see if your current provider will offer you the same one under the threat of you leaving. So you might want to be like, hey, I saw that this company has this service for this amount. I'm thinking about switching over. Is this something that you would be able to match, or something to that effect? The worst they can do is say no, which they do sometimes. But you may be surprised that sometimes you will get a better rate. Even if you don't get what you're asking for, they might give you some kind of extra bonus. A really easy one as far as things like electric or water is just to use less of them. You take shorter showers, turn off the lights, turn off electronics when you're not using them. I know our family is so bad about leaving the TV on because we tend to have it on just kind of in the background, and then we'll all end up leaving the room and then the TV's still on, which is so stupid. It's just wasting money. So make sure you turn off electronics when you're not using them. Just be mindful about where your money's going with stuff like that. Another one is looking at your phone bill, internet bill, stuff like that, to see if maybe you could get a cheaper plan or consider switching companies if you want to do that. To be honest, I was thinking about switching my phone to a different company, but it's only $5 difference. And I've been with my same one for so long and I have perfect service with them. So I'm not going to do it for $5, but you never know what's out there. So it's a good idea to just look around. So the last category is really just miscellaneous. These are some random tips that might help you. The first one is for subscriptions. Make sure you are reevaluating what subscriptions you use. It is totally fine to have subscription services. I use several myself, but it's because I actually use them. I watch them. I go to the gym, just any of these subscriptions or memberships. Make sure you actually use them. If you find yourself not using them, don't be afraid to just go ahead and get rid of them. I know with me, I was so worried about getting rid of some of my subscriptions, but once I actually got rid of them, I found I didn't miss them. So it's quite possible you won't miss them either. It's also very easy to just cancel and go back if you want to. So if you're on the fence, just go ahead and cancel it. If it's been a month or two and you're really missing it, you can always go back. It's not that serious. But it's a great idea to give it a try. One thing to do is also consider what discounts you might be able to get. So these are things like student discounts, military discounts, teacher discounts. I know my parents are at that age where they get senior discounts, just AAA, any of these things. Just consider discounts you might be eligible for. This might even be true for your workplace. I know at my workplace, we actually get a discount on the gym, which is one reason I went ahead and joined. So consider all the different types of discounts you can get, and you may find some ways to cut your expenses. Another tip I have actually comes with a bit of a caveat. So DIYing. would be a really good one to save to cut your expenses, but sometimes DIYing can end up being more than if you just paid someone. So this is one where you really need to evaluate your costs. So what do you have to buy? How much is it going to be? How much time is it going to take? Would it be better to just hire someone? Definitely reevaluate things and see what's best for you. You may have someone you know where you can borrow some tools. Stuff like that are good things to consider. Similar to that, that's a little easier, would be DIYing stuff like self-care or beauty treatments. So I cut my own hair, which is pretty easy. I usually don't paint my nails. Occasionally I'll paint my toenails. So doing like manicures yourself is one. Just little things like that where you might be able to save some money, or at least go to the salon less often. So this is one that will definitely not apply to everyone. But if you are someone who is good with credit cards, try to find a good card with a really good cash back amount, so that you're able to bring in a little more income as you're spending on your essentials. So with my card, I'll put things like preschool cost, groceries, gas, just insurance, just all of the essentials. Pretty much anything I buy, I put on my credit card and then I immediately pay it off. So I never have a balance carryover, which means I never have an interest payment. If you are someone who has interest payments sometimes, or late fees, or any kind of fees associated with the credit card, this advice is not for you, because you will end up paying more than what you're getting back for your cash back amount. Because to be honest, the cash back with credit cards, it's usually fairly low. I think the one difference might be if you're doing things like airline miles or points related to that. I think those can be really good depending on what card you have. But just look into different cards and see what fits your lifestyle best. But again, only if you're able to be careful with those. For us, I think we get it's a pretty decent amount we get back. I want to say 40 or 50 bucks a month. Yeah, so it's a nice extra little chunk each month that's just free money. And the very last tip that I have for you is to delay your purchases. This one has helped me so much. So one thing you can do is save for later in your cart. So say you're on Amazon is really good for this, but I think a lot of other places have been catching on as well, where you have your shopping cart and then you just save stuff for later. So later you log in and you can scroll down and see everything you save for later. So I know with Amazon in particular, I will scroll through stuff I save for later and I'm like, why did I even add this to my cart? I don't want it. I don't need it. It's too expensive. It's too low quality. There are just so many reasons I can see why I shouldn't buy things that I thought I would want to buy later. So this can be very educational to see what kind of things you would have otherwise bought if you didn't save it for later. I mean, this tip works with anything. I mean, whether it's online or not, just if you see something you think you might want, just sit on it for a few days, a week, 2 weeks, a month. I mean, whatever your set amount of time is, just put some time between when you see it and want it versus when you actually buy it. And a lot of times, if you wait, you usually find out you don't want it anymore and don't need it and are glad that you didn't buy it. If you find that you keep wanting it, it might be something you actually need. Like say it's a piece of clothing, like a jacket, and you just keep finding yourself, man, I wish I had that jacket. It would be perfect for this weather or this outfit or whatever it is. Then sure, go ahead and get it eventually. But the main thing is just to put some distance there so you're not impulse buying. So I hope those tips help you. These are things that I use in my own life and it has absolutely helped me to have more money in my pocket. So if you like videos like this, please let me know in the comments. Let me know if you have any tips because I would love to hear some tips from you guys because I'm always looking for new things to do. So make sure you subscribe, like the video, do all the YouTube things, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.